Hi, today we are going on an adventure with Miss Galan while we read Imagination Vacation Yellowstone by Anastasia and Christopher Kirst. Dad! Yes, Emmeline, Dad replied. I think Grand Prismatic is a rainbow that curled up for a nap. When it bubbles, the colors escape and the color the world. What do you think? Emmeline asked. Well, Dad began, I think that Grand Prismatic is a hot spring, a pool of water that has trickled so deep into the earth that it was superheated by magma and... What's magma? Emmeline interrupted. Well, Dad began again, geologists like me believe that the earth is made up of layers like a cake. The layer we live on, the crust, is mostly made of hard, cold rock. But the next layer down, the upper mantle, is made of very hot, melty rock called magma. The magma heats the water and it goes back up to the surface like a pot boiling over. The colors in Grand Prismatic are caused mostly by the algae and bacteria that grow in the spring, Dad explained. Really? Emmeline asked, raising her eyebrows a bit. Daddy, what are you imagining, Emmeline? I think Yellowstone Lake is an enormous osprey nest. The mama osprey landed in the park and squished down all the mountains to build the nest. Then it rained and the nest filled with water. What do you think? Well, Dad began, volcanologists think that Yellowstone Lake is part of a huge, collapsed caldera caused by a hot spot. A what? Caused by a what? Emmeline was confused. Well, a hot spot is just what it sounds like. It's a spot on the earth where magma keeps rising. When the magma stays underground, it causes the things like the hot spring we saw earlier. But when the magma comes out of the ground, it creates volcanoes like the one we're standing on. What? We're standing on a volcano? Get me out of here, Emmeline shrieked. Actually, Dad said, we're standing on the edge of an empty volcano that has collapsed into a bowl shape called a caldera, like a cauldron, a witch's pot. Dad, you have a wild imagination. Dad? Yes, Emmeline. I think Castle Geyser is a castle built by fairies for the fairy princess to live in, Emmeline imagined. What do you think? I can see the resemblance, Dad answered, but I don't know if a fairy princess would want to live there. The geyser shoots out lots of hot water and steam. Don't you think it would be too noisy and way too wet for fairies? They might get droopy wings. I think this castle was built by a geyser, Dad said. Who built it? Emmeline asked. A geyser is kind of like a hot spring, Dad explained, but the water has to pass through a tight spot. Underground, the water, heated by magma, is stuck under a layer of cold water. The hot water builds up until finally it erupts like that. It's so beautiful, Emmeline gushed. But how did it build the castle? Well, Dad replied, the water carries chemicals. As the water splashes out of the geyser, some of the chemicals are left behind, creating a rock called geyserite. Every time Castle Geyser erupts, the geyserite castle grows just a little bit more. If you say so, Emmeline said skeptically. Daddy, what is it, Emmeline? I think I know why that rock looks like a tree. It was a beautiful green tree until a raven came and sat in it and sang, and he was such a terrible singer that the tree turned to stone so it wouldn't have to listen. What do you think? Emmeline asked. I think the trees were buried by ash during a volcanic eruption. Minerals dissolved in water moved through the volcanic ash, gradually making new soil. Some of the minerals were absorbed into the buried trees and replaced the wood, petrifying the trees. Over time, Dad continued, a new forest grew over the old buried forest. The whole process has been repeated many times here in Yellowstone. Yeah, right, Emmeline said, rolling her eyes. Dad? Yes, Emmeline. I think I know what made this canyon. I think there was this really big buffalo, and a cloud of mosquitoes wouldn't leave him alone. And he got so angry he snorted and stomped and scratched this canyon into the ground with his hoof. What do you think? Yeah, Dad agreed. Mosquitoes sure can be annoying, but the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone is about 900 feet deep and about half a mile wide. Way too big for a bison to have made, no matter how angry he was. Dad went on, I think your answer is right down there at the bottom of the canyon. But there's just a river down there, Emmeline argued. That's right, Dad said. It was mostly the river that made the canyon. The V shape of the canyon is a hint that erosion most likely created it. Erosion is the breaking up of rocks and dirt by wind, water, or ice. It probably took less than 600,000 years to create it. Bit by bit, grain by grain, the river carried away the rock and dirt, and now you can see how beautiful the earth is on the inside, too. Emmeline said. Daddy? Yes, Emmeline. I think Yellowstone is the most magical and amazing and beautiful place in the world. What do you think? I think you're absolutely right. The end. And that is our imagination vacation in Yellowstone.